Good evening and welcome to a summary of the news. Today marks the 43rd anniversary of the passing of King Talal bin Abdullah, remembered for his legacy as a writer of the Jordanian constitution and for promoting political life in the kingdom. On this occasion, His Royal Highness Prince Faisal the Regent visited the royal tombs, where he laid a wreath on the tomb of the late king and recited verses of the Holy Quran. Members of the royal family, as well as a host of military and civil officials, also visited the royal tombs to pay respects. Over to Syria, fierce battles continue in the northern part of the country between Daesh terrorists and Kurdish militias, now receiving substantial support from the international coalition. The fighting has been going on since yesterday in a number of villages under Kurdish control and located between Raqqa and Hasaka. In recent days, U.S. and allied forces have intensified airstrikes on Raqqa, inflicting heavy losses on infrastructure used by Daesh. U.S. military officials say Kurdish advances on the ground justify the intensified airstrikes. Meanwhile, the White House acknowledged that the 60 Syrian rebel fighters the Pentagon is training to battle Daesh is not enough, but said rebels were being carefully screened before being admitted into the program. The training program was launched in May and was designed to train as many as 5,400 fighters a year. The Saudi-led coalition continued their bombing campaign against the Houthis in Yemen, targeting the offices of the rebels in the capital, Sana'a. The strike came amid intensified efforts by United Nations Special Envoy Ismail Wuld Sheikh Ahmed to broker a humanitarian truce between the exiled government of President Abd Rabbu Mansour Hadi and the Houthis. Airstrikes and clashes yesterday killed at least 176 fighters across Yemen in what was the highest daily toll since the Saudi-led air offensive began more than 3 months ago. Iran and 6 major powers will continue negotiations past today's deadline for a long-term nuclear agreement amid remaining disagreements, including on the continuation of UN arms embargo on Iran. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said there was every reason to believe a deal would be done within a few days and that there was an understanding that most of the current sanctions against Iran would be lifted. European Union Foreign Policy Chief Federica Mogherini spoke to reporters outside the hotel where the talks were taking place.
We are continuing to negotiate for the next couple of days. This does not mean we are extending our deadline. I told you 1 week ago, more or less, we are interpreting in a flexible way our deadline, which means that we are taking the time, the days we still need to finalize the agreement, which is something that is still possible, even if now we're getting into the difficult time.
Eurozone leaders held an emergency summit in Brussels on the Greek debt crisis as the leaders of France and Germany urged the Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras to put forward a credible proposal. Tsipras is seeking fresh aid from creditors before Greek banks run out of money. Arriving in Brussels for the summit, Italian Prime Minister Matteo Renzi said he is not worried about a technical solution for Greece and that it is up to the Greek government to reach a deal and stay in the euro. For her part, German Chancellor Angela Merkel said there is no basis for opening new negotiations with Athens. Prominent economists, meanwhile, are calling on Merkel to make concessions with Athens and stop forcing more austerity measures on Greece. In an open letter published in leading European newspapers today, the economist said the medicine prescribed by the German Finance Ministry and Brussels has bled the patient, not cured the disease. 2 separate suicide bombings rocked the Afghan capital Kabul and killed at least 1 person and injured 3 others. In the first attack, a suicide car bomber wounded a NATO soldier in eastern Kabul, and in the second attack, a motorcycle bomber detonated explosives at the gate of an intelligence facility in the same area and killed 1 of the soldiers and wounded another. 2 other armed militants, accomplices of the attacker, were then caught in a fierce crossfire with security troops at the compound. Both were shot dead by the guards. The Taliban later claimed responsibility for both attacks. And over to the world of fashion. Anna Grande was a show for Chanel's autumn-winter haute couture collection at Paris Fashion Week. Designer Karl Lagerfeld's collection was very graphic, For the first time, Lagerfeld used modern technology in his designs, as 3D printers were used to build the structure of jackets displayed on the catwalk. The technology involves a laser power source to bid a material together to create a solid structure. Lagerfeld then added material embroidery to finish the jacket. And finally, for a quick look at the weather. Fair conditions continue tomorrow in most parts of the kingdom and relatively hot in the Jordan Valley and the Gulf of Aqaba. Temperatures in Amman will reach a high of 31 degrees Celsius, while in Aqaba it will reach a maximum of 37 degrees. That's all for tonight. Have a pleasant evening.